Hey guys, this is the Valenti Podcast. Today we have Jordan, Trent, Blake, and me. A little bit of a different setup because Trent came from Sydney and he is Blake's brother. Welcome, Trent.
Thanks for having me.
Someone play the applause sound effects.
I'm just going to press one. I don't know which is which.
Yeah, right.
None of us know what is what because we don't hear the sound. So whatever that sound was, hope you enjoyed.
Anyways, we got a beginner in calisthenics in the house. So this is for those people that want to start calisthenics but a little bit shy, I guess, or have a knowledge gap, or just can't find a community, and so they end up doing bodybuilding instead, which is sad, I guess, because
Here we go.
calisthenics is just better.
What's your perspective, Trent? Calisthenics versus bodybuilding. Do you have a preference?
Well, I can say I have noticed, at least with the community that you guys have, is there's way less of an ego in the calisthenics community. Like the top athletes, you would expect them to have some sort of ego because, they're the best, but they're just really humble and always willing to share their tips and knowledge, trying to help you succeed as a calisthenics athlete as well. So, yeah.
That's an interesting point. We already spoke a whole podcast almost about kind of gym versus calisthenics, but I can't remember off the top of my head us mentioning the, I guess, individual competition that exists in bodybuilding, like just kind of the stigma or the air of how bodybuilding is, you know what I mean? Like everyone keeps to themselves and keeps their sort of secrets and ways that they operate mostly to themselves or very largely to themselves compared to calisthenics where literally you can ask anyone anything and they'll share their like sort of most prized secrets or tips to training or how to unlock specific movements or how they think about holding their planche or whatever it is. No one's sort of, oh, no, sorry, bro, that's my secret. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone's very supportive. It's good.
Yeah.
Because we all just want to grow this sport, really.
That's
It's
it.
too few of us to have any sort of ego.
That's it.
Or
Like even when we
disrespect.
compete, it's not like, oh, it's me versus you. We've got to keep to ourselves and whatever. It's just like it's all fun and whoever wins wins. But
Yeah.
we're all sort of in the same boat at the end of the day. Whereas the vibe I get with bodybuilding is not so much the same thing. It's more sort of like me versus everyone else.
You can make the argument that once calisthenics grows and eventually will be like the same as bodybuilders and people in the gym. But today is today, and as far as I'm concerned, calisthenics is superior by far at this present time. So no better time to join. This is the golden period of calisthenics, I do believe, when everything's going up. But the hardest thing about starting it is just that knowledge at the beginning. Do you agree, Blake?
Knowledge in terms of
Knowing what to do. How
Yeah,
to progress.
yeah. Like,
how to start.
how the hell do you start? Like,
Yeah, that's the thing with calisthenics that doesn't any other sport or like bodybuilding, for example, or any other sport or discipline doesn't have the same sort of thing is specifically with calisthenics, when you see people doing it, you see the best people doing the hardest stuff and it seems so far away from where you start. Whereas with most other sports, you can sort of piece together the elements of what you see of the best people doing and sort of backtrack to figure out where you start. Whereas with calisthenics, it's like kind of, there's such a
You look at
massive
it-
disparity between where you start and where you end up. if
Yeah,
that makes
you're
sense.
like, you have no clue, basically.
Like, say
You
for
see a
body-
move and you're like, what do I even do first?
Yeah. Like say for bodybuilding, you see the best bodybuilder training in the gym. He's doing the same exercises that
you're
or very
doing.
similar exercises to what you do when you start. Like, slight variations, and he obviously has a much deeper understanding of what he needs to do in the gym. But the exercises are almost identical in terms of what you're actually doing. Whereas with calisthenics, like you're not training full planche when you start. You know what I mean? So you see a guy doing full planche, you're like, where do I start to get that?
And all of that gets skewed when you realize that the influencer that you've been watching for workouts and tutorials that includes rep ranges and sets, the influencer themselves are enhanced, so the recovery goes up. The way that they perform an exercise is way, way different than someone that's performing something naturally. And so when you're doing calisthenics, you have a bit more of a understanding of who is actually teaching you. You know that they're more likely to have achieved those skills, organically and through practice. Although there are some variations, it's a little bit more easier to interpret because it's a very logical pattern in terms of developing a calisthenics skill. You start from a basic progression, then you build up to the next one, then you might increase some volume and do some more sets and do another exercise. But with bodybuilding, you're just putting on muscle, and there's a general overarching way to do that scientifically, but the nitty gritty is very vague and not.
True.
Yeah.
Not a lot of specific advice
Yeah.
out there. Where there, I guess you could say there is with calisthenics, but then again, there's also many pieces of advice.
And
Some
I'll tell
contradicting
you
with calisthenics as
my
well.
experience, but I also want to hear what Trent thinks because he is a beginner, obviously. But when I first started, I was a game addicted teenager, and I was still in the mindset of, okay, when a new hero in Overwatch comes out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on all the tutorials on what the ability breakdowns are, how to utilize this hero in the best way in that game. Then I'm going to watch 5 hours of pro gameplay and break down how each different player uses that hero in different situations. And then I'll hop on the computer and then I'll play with that hero. And then I feel confident in actually using all the controls and practicing all the abilities and technical aspects of the character. With calisthenics, when I started, I just pumped out videos from like fitness FAQs, Chris Herrier, Austin Dunham, calisthenics movement. And then when I did my first workout, I was already 20 days ahead of my first ever exercise. Like I already had a plan set out, like something in motion. That's why I find it a bit hard to relate to people these days when it comes to learning calisthenics. I truly don't think that there's a knowledge gap because there's so much information out there already. And I learned all of this 5 years ago. I believe it's just a lack of interest and a lack of vision. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a muscle up. And so I just spammed videos until I understood how to get there.
I would narrow it down to initiative. Some people have more than others.
That's true.
And if you lack initiative, it's a little bit harder to begin something. But if you have a bit of guidance or a bit of a spark or a bit of motive, then it's going to be a lot easier. And that's where community comes into play.
Do you know where to start with calisthenics?
Firstly,
how interested are you?
Are you actually going to?
well, that remains to be seen. But I'm definitely, after this weekend and seeing all the athletes on display, it's pretty inspiring and motivating. So I owe it to myself to at least give it a shot and see where it takes me.
So where are you going to start? Where would you start?
Well, for me, I think just start with the basics. So muscle up. I mean, I already have a decent base, but yeah, I think the muscle up is probably the bread and butter of calisthenics. And then move on to more complex moves. And obviously I have, you guys to consult and get tips and whatnot.
Yeah,
Metabank Mondays.
Yeah, exactly. The community is really strong. So
yeah,
I don't think I'd ever be sort of, at a lack of knowledge or, lost with no sense of direction.
yeah. So let's say you get muscle up within the next week, right? Which I think you could.
Very feasible.
Yeah. Shout out Anthony. Anthony got it in, how long was it? Like 3 days? 4 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty shocking.
Yeah, for sure. So
He's an anomaly. To be
well,
Yeah.
Like
Pen.
handstand. He got handstand, bro.
Depends. Trent could do it.
So quick.
Yeah.
You got to beat the record.
But Trent's stronger than him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've noticed as well, like, it's, I mean, you guys can probably attest more to this, but I think technique is just way more important than strength in a lot of aspects, you know? Because you can have the strength, but if you don't have the technique, you're always going to fail.
That's what I've said this a couple times now, but that's what Valentin said, right? Like planche, it's an expression of strength. So it's like most people are strong enough to not necessarily planche, but they have a good base of strength. You know, if you're getting into calisthenics and you've done sort of gym before, which you have, if anyone's been to the gym before consistently enough, like say for a year or a couple of years, you have a good enough strength base to get into calisthenics. But the thing that you're missing is the expression. You don't understand how to express your strength in that particular way because you've been moving external weights around being an idiot.
And specificity and practice, all that in combination is how you achieve the planche in its very essence. Like ignore the technique, ignore the specific exercises. The way to achieve any move in calisthenics is thinking it as an expression, as what Valentin and Blake said. And then all you have to do is just apply your strength to that movement, which is like a vessel, and with enough like belief in yourself and enough time, eventually you'll like foster a really strong connection with that move. Yeah.
Well put.
I mean,
He's a judge.
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Was. Hopefully won't be again.
How was it?
Yeah.
How was it judging
Yeah.
for the first time?
Burleigh Battles 2023, December 3rd. Awesome event. It was a outdoor competition with a park permit, which we paid actual money for and got like public liability insurance, submitted a risk assessment, a map overview, and emailed back and forth with the council. Got there in the end. Got Red Bull as a sponsor, Via Valenti sponsoring prizes for the event. And Streetwork Australia, we pulled through and made a banging event. I was the judge for dynamics. Brian was judge for statics, power dynamics, and then Ronaldo was a judge for statics. There were
Wait, don't you mean power statics or is it power dynamics?
yeah. I corrected myself. The power dynamics for Brian. And
Oh,
then-
not power statics.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the wording error. There were 14 athletes for advanced freestyle men's, and
Camera.
six athletes for intermediate, and then 4 women category athletes, pretty much. And it was a good event, but how was your experience, Trent, as a spectator?
Yeah, I think from a spectator's standpoint, it was a really smooth event. There were no major hiccups, so I think that's great. There seemed to be a decent flow. So yeah, overall, it was quite entertaining. I think.
How much of it did you understand in terms of what was going on?
Well, I think, regardless of your level of experience in calisthenics, anyone can appreciate that, like, for example, a planche requires a certain level of strength and dedication to achieve. I think that's sort of like a common sense thing. But you can definitely appreciate it more if you have at least a base level of understanding or if you've attempted some sort of calisthenics in the past.
Yep. That's been my experience too. Having got into calisthenics a bit later than you guys, first seeing people do like sort of the advanced moves, going to Meadowbank, seeing, when Ethan was there the few times that I first saw him and a couple of other guys doing those more advanced moves. You see it, like this is before I had even dabbled in calisthenics or as I was just getting into it. You see it and you kind of appreciate it for what it is, or you appreciate it for less than what it is, I should say. Like you see it and you think, yeah, that's hard, that's good. You know, you see a full planche, you're like, yeah, that's pretty hard. But you have no idea how hard it really is until you like pursue that path yourself. That was my experience, at least, anyway. So I know you had some things to say about dynamics versus statics, because we were talking about that when we were at the comp.
Yeah, definitely. I thought from a viewer's perspective, especially, you know, a passerby, for example, when you've had sort of no exposure to calisthenics before, dynamics definitely would be more entertaining, I think.
And more eye-catching. Right?
Yeah, eye-catching, definitely. But also, I think, you know, the static movements still, at least at the highest level, are still very eye-catching and entertaining as well.
Yeah.
But I think the dynamics at a certain sort of level of excitement that the statics maybe lack in some sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, dynamics is so much more scarce.
Yep.
Not many athletes in Australia train it.
Here it is.
It's also very hard to find a setup that's good to train it as well, whereas statics you can train anywhere.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
what
also
we were
comes into
talk- that's
play.
what we were talking about today, just
Yeah.
earlier.
But I appreciate the all-rounded athlete, so I feel like I want to be able to do both. But no, I agree. Pretty much most people would agree that dynamics is definitely more exhilarating.
Yeah.
To do.
Both do and to see.
Yeah.
Well, I guess to do comes down to the person,
Yeah.
but to watch, unless, I mean, to the non-athletes, most of them would agree.
Yeah. To
At
the
least
normie,
from my experience, most would agree that
to
it's
the
pretty
normie.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, through all the feedback and words from spectators, athletes, it was a pretty good event. And just the most important thing is just the community was there, and everyone that appreciates calisthenics just appreciates it more through competitions. So
Post-competition motivation.
yeah, it's time to really step it up, and gotta get better at planche and front lever now.
Literally have to unlock it.
Yeah.
Bad.
But that was your first comp. What was the experience?
It was good. To be honest, I wasn't like super nervous or anything for it. I'm not sure why. Because typically, like, I played other sports growing up and at school and whatever, and I used to get really nervous for like games and things like that, especially big ones like finals and things like that. I was a little bit nervous before my battle with Sam, but nowhere near what I used to be. And I'm not sure if that's like an age thing or whether it's just because I've been training for so long. Like, because like you go out and do your 2 45-second rounds, but you're doing sort of more or less the same thing all the time when you train. Like, I personally didn't train specific combos for this comp because I'm sort of only just getting into it. I will for the next one because I know better. But even just doing my normal training, I was doing similar things to what I went out there and did in the comp. You know what I mean? So maybe that contributed to me being less nervous.
How good's the strength buff?
Bro, insane.
The
How
adrenaline
how
pumping.
crazy was that 90? I went
Yeah.
down, got halfway up and was like, nah, I'm not going to get up. So I went back down and basically did 2 90s in one.
Yeah, that was gave me goosebumps when you caught it.
And everyone was just like cheering. Everyone was going crazy. Same thing
Yeah.
with Tyler's front flip regrab. It's like,
I was watching back my qualifier front lever set, and I was like, man, that was a hot set.
yeah, dude, crazy. Crazy.
It was just a qualifier. I was just like, yeah, just do a little front lever set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get mad
I was
strength.
before I decided I was just gonna full send it and do everything, even with a semi-impinged shoulder.
Legit.
But surprisingly, it wasn't too bad on the shoulder, which I'm very happy with. So I'm gonna keep rehabbing for another week or two and see how we go. Hopefully I can planche again soon.
Even Trent's caught a little bit of the post-comp motivation.
Yeah, it's electric. It just
So
I like that word,
you'll be-
electric.
You'll be at Meadowbank then in Sydney, right?
yeah, I'm planning on it.
Love that.
The great thing about communities, especially in calisthenics, is that there's so many newbies compared to like people that can do actual skills, which is good, or even if just like a good ratio, because they all band together and they all like give experience and knowledge to each other and collaborate about how to do specific exercises, like a specific exercise. And when you have that accountability as well, like you have someone that's on your exact level, like Jeff and you,
Bro, I was literally just gonna say that.
then it's electric.
Jeff and I. I'm not sure if Jeff's here. If he's coming, is he?
I think it's here.
Because he's been with the Cabra Boys. There's a couple of guests coming on. So Jeff will be on in a bit. But we've mentioned him a couple of times on the podcast already. Sus Jeff. For context, Jeff and I met pretty early on in my Cali journey. I was like sort of maybe a couple months in earlier this year, right at the start of this year actually. And Jeff and I both didn't have front lever at the time. We were sort of like 1-2 second really brief front lever hold, bad form. And so we started basically a race between us to see who could get front lever first. And it was like competitive, but like friendly competition. So we were just like mucking around, having fun, like, training next to, like literally training side by side. And every week at Meadowbank, we'd do sets together and all that sort of stuff and see who could hold what for longer. And man,
He's got a nice front lever now. He can do a decent walk.
And then I moved up here and he just took off and I was left in the dust.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's Planch's fault. That's Planch's fault. But yeah, having that for sure is like an awesome motivator. And the thing as well about it, even everything that we've sort of spoken about so far, is I think the way we talk about it, we make it sound like it's sort of intense and there's like a lot of sort of thought goes into what you're doing and the structure of your training. But with all these meetups and everything, the other thing about it is it's just fun. Like you leave after 3 hours at Meadowbank and you don't even realize that you've just done a 3-hour workout.
It feels like a Friday night.
Literally. And everyone's just walking around, like mucking around, talking
That's
shit.
true.
It's insane.
You get to Monday and you're actually G'd up.
Yeah.
It's like Meadowbank
Usually
Mondays.
Monday is the day that everyone dreads, but like
Literally.
back in the peak of Meadowbank and when we were like actually actively going instead of doing nothing here, it was so insane.
Yeah. Literally.
It's crazy.
We'd be in the work office. He'd have our parallettes on us.
Yeah.
Oh, do a quick little HSPU. No one's looking.
Yeah.
Or cheeky. Mid-core work break. HSPUs. Yeah.
But it's so important to have like a band of brothers or like a purpose, community to back yourself in life. Like even if we're not doing calisthenics, it doesn't matter if we're knitting or some shit. Like we
Sorry,
still
what?
have, we still have like people that have the same interests as us, and we can convene every single week and get better at what we do. It's very human to kind of gather and
We're social animals.
yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Got to get around it, Trent. That's the other thing. Trent's an awesome scapegoat for this pitch, but we just want everyone to climb on board. You know what I mean? Jump on ship.
Yeah.
Because the community is growing, whether you're a part of it or not. So you might as well get on board now while it's still young and, join in the fun.
Yeah, don't worry about your legs. Just get on board.
If you want to do legs, just don't come for one day. There's Tuesdays. Is there a meetup for Tuesdays?
No.
There's no meetup Tuesdays, so you can do legs Tuesday and then every other day you train Cali.
If you like legs so much, just make a meetup for it.
Tuesday leg day.
When are the guests hopping on?
I mean, this has already been a 30-minute podcast. So,
Should we just call them on? What are we going to do? Like a rapid fire, or do we just all get off? Oh, Jeff.
I don't know.
Sus Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Well, we're going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys got a few nuggets of wisdom from us and have a better understanding of what to do in terms of starting your calisthenics journey. Thanks so much for supporting the competition. It was a massive turnout. Great to see all the faces from Sydney and different states in Australia. Follow us on Instagram if you're new. Also on YouTube as well. And especially special thanks to Brian for organising the street workout comp as well. Forgot to mention that he was part of the organising team. Massive part in organising all the council stuff, permits, and lawyer stuff. Big shout out. And please give us some feedback as well. Like, we took into account the intros. You guys thought we lacked intros. We added on today. Let's see if it was good enough or not. But yeah, keep it coming. We love advice.
Just quickly as well, we now have our website live. So we've spoken at length about growing the community, and part of that is through Via Valenti, which roughly translates to the way of the mighty. We want everyone on board with that, and through that, that's how we're putting on the comps. That's how we're growing the community. So jump on the website, grab yourself. We got shirts, socks, sweatbands, bucket hats, whole range of things, and we got more on the way. So we're constantly working on stuff for you guys. Let us know if you suss out the website and want to see some other products and stuff, and we'll work on that for you. But yeah, website's live. It's viavalenti.com.au.
viavalentiau.com.au, right?
No.
No, not AU. Oh, my bad. Ignore that.
Cut.
But any profits
viavalenti.com.au.
are going straight back into the business to keep growing
Yeah, that's for sure.
the brand and the community as a whole.
For sure.